So, what does the future hold for real estate? What is my prediction of the real estate market after 15 years in business for 2025? First, I want to talk about 6 pillars that affect the real estate business, but not entirely. So there is a industry leader. His name is Gino Blafari, and I'm saying his last name quickly. I want to give credit where credit's due. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly. He probably doesn't even know who I am, but I have seen him speak in interviews and on stage. And so I want to share with you 6 pillars that he shared with us on stage a couple different times. These 6 pillars are economic factors and not just real estate factors. So these 6 pillars of economic factors do all affect real estate. So let me talk about them. Number 1 is cost of capital. This is really interest rates, right? But it's not just house interest rates. It is business interest rates. It is bonds, right? What is the cost of capital out there in the market today? The second pillar is business growth. How quickly is business growing? What is the access to the capital? Number 3, jobs. Hiring, laying off, unemployment numbers. What is happening there? Number 4, the stock market. So we've recently seen the stock market kind of going down, right? I'm in an area where there's a lot of pharmaceutical companies. So I was recently at the gym one morning and everybody was in the locker room just all upset about some stocks that had fallen with what is going on in the world today. And I hear every day on the phone people talking about these issues and what they think about it. And the stock market is typically a lagging indicator, but it is an indicator, and I am hearing a lot of people talk about this. While the stock market is a lagging indicator, it is a lead indicator for consumers. So it does affect how consumers feel about where the world is today, where it's going in the future. Number 5 is consumer sentiment. So it just follows exactly what we were just saying. This is where consumers believe what the news is saying. And so to add on to this, we have polar news today, and then there's so much online on YouTube, right, where people are getting their information. And so what I'm seeing is, even with consumer sentiment, it just depends on what people are listening to as to what level their sentiment is. However, I do want to say all news can be a little bit sensational, in my opinion. And so it is meant to get those emotions, those frustrations. I don't think news incites excitement and happiness and positivity and optimism. I do want to do that for you. I do think news typically, gets more of the negative emotions going. I don't know about you. That's how I feel. I try to avoid a lot of it. You can't avoid all of it. I do care about other people, but I don't want to spend too much time watching news that can incite fear and upset me either. Okay, so the 6th pillar is real estate. And so what do I think is happening in the real estate market? What do I think is going to happen with prices? Well, I actually think that regardless of the stock market, but if the stock market is doing badly, I don't think that necessarily is going to reflect on the real estate market. I think it could actually strengthen the real estate market because we've seen prices going up. We've seen prices holding strong regardless over the last few years. And so we had a long recession. When I first got into business from 2008 until I would say 4, 5, 6, 7 years, there was a long running buyer's market. Right. And so we're on the opposite side of that. We have been in a seller's market since COVID, maybe a little bit before, just depending on the marketplace and the type of homes. But in just general real estate, there was a long time where housing prices weren't keeping up with inflation, right? So if inflation is set typically 3% per year, we're not talking about the 40% we've seen over the last few years in grocery prices, that sort of thing. I think real estate, actually, some of the inflation we've seen in it is recovering from some of the inflation we didn't see for a long time. People talk a lot about the affordability of housing. I'm seeing that. However, I'm also seeing a lot of baby boomers and older people with money that have a big house that maybe they've outgrown. There's nowhere that they want to go. I hear all the time, like, I could move, but I don't want to. I can afford it. I'm not in a position. I don't need to. I don't have to, I don't want to. And I recently met a lady that her bedroom was upstairs. So daily, multiple times a day, she goes up and down her stairs. So who's to say how long it will take before people that are in large homes that are aging want to move out? Maybe they don't. Maybe they're going to keep it. We don't know. We do know that it will affect housing prices. It will affect inventory, supply, demand, all of those things, right? And so when we talk about that, the other things that affect real estate are cost of labor. We know the cost of labor has not gotten any better. It's not getting better. People are not out there saying, you know what, I'm going to work cheaper. You can hire me for less. Like, I don't see anyone out there saying that. A lot of people are going up on their prices. There's been a lot of talk about college education versus trade. For the last 5-10 years, I've been hearing this, and how the trades, there's not enough people going into trades. And so finding skilled tradesmen is getting harder and harder. And so that's having an effect on cost of labor, which is housing, right? So if you own a house, if you need repairs on your house, if builders are going to build houses, cost of labor and tradesmen are very important and have a big factor on this. We all know, and I want to be careful with not touching on politics on my channel, but cost of labor, there's a lot of immigrants who do house building, and that can be legal and illegal. I've been around new construction my entire career, and I definitely would say that there's a lot of people doing construction that may not be here, legally. Let's just put it that way. And so if there's an effect on people that need to leave the country, or if they come up with some sort of solution where, citizenship can be attained, I'm sure there's a cost to that. So what is that going to do to their cost of labor? Either way, it's going to go up. Cost of construction. So gas prices go up and down. That affects cost of construction. Plywood, there was one point I had a client say, the same plywood I used to pay $7 for, I'm paying $70 for now. Some things aren't as high as they were, but there's other things that have gone up in place of that. So with cost of labor and cost of construction being as high as it is, with interest rates being as high as they are, with builders not wanting to take the risk to build and develop new subdivisions, I see subdivisions being finished. I don't see a lot of new subdivisions being started. So I anticipate that real estate is going to continue to hold its value. We're going to continue to see the same struggles with inventory, low inventory, high demand, high prices, right? Something I've noticed being that I've worked two completely different markets, it's almost like every house has raised at least $100,000 in value over the last 10 to 15 years. My husband got into business 20 years ago, and we were riding around, and he said, those houses, when I first got into business, he would sell this particular neighborhood a lot that were $80,000 homes. And now they're over $200,000, right? It's just like every house that we can think of has gone up $100,000 since we started, at least minimally. In our area, we are doing even better. So Philadelphia was predicted by Zillow to be one of the top real estate markets in the country. I'm seeing this with the amount of offers, with the amount of interest that we're getting on properties. The other prediction was that the Northeast is having a better market. And so I am seeing the fruits of these predictions as I'm working this spring market right now. I'm also seeing throughout the country, markets have slowed down a little bit, where people were selling houses in 2 weeks. Now it's taken maybe 30 days, 45 days. As someone that's been in the business a long time, 30 or 45 days is still a pretty quick time frame. And so what is a seller's market? It's actually 4 months or less that it takes properties to move. And so everyone I'm talking to, almost every category of just regular residential, we're still seeing a seller's market. Now, a neutral market is like 4 to 6 month range, right? And so, for example, in our area, condos in Philly, they're seeing more of that neutral market. It's kind of fallen in that for the level of inventory. So that could be where a buyer could take advantage, maybe get a little bit better deal if they were willing to consider that in lieu of regular home. Buyer's market is where properties will sit on the market 6 months or longer. And so I haven't talked to anyone that's dealing with that. Now, we as realtors and buyers now that are so educated, estimated when houses go from selling in 2 weeks to, a month and a half, then that seems like a big extreme difference. 3 times as long, right? But it is still a seller's market and there's still inventory shortages. And so it doesn't mean sellers are going to reduce their price a lot. They're not competing against foreclosures. They're not, people aren't trying to compete with their neighbors to drop their price low enough so some buyer will pick them over everyone else. It's not happening. I don't anticipate it happening. Sellers are in good positions. So many people don't have to sell. And so they can afford to wait. They can wait 45 days. That's not a big deal. So my prediction for the real estate market is that it's going to be similar to what we've seen. It's going to stay strong. I think confidence is going to stay up. If you're a homeowner and you have a lot of equity, then I think you're in a good place. So we have supply, we have demand, we have inventory. Now there's another formula statistic. It's called absorption ratio. How many houses are coming on the market? How long is it taking them to sell? And what's the absorption? How many are expiring, canceling, withdrawing? They're not selling, right? When we take and look at all these numbers and all these ratios, we can take an educated guess, right? It's an assumption. It's a guess. It's an opinion, right? This is my opinion. So what does the future hold for real estate 2025? I think it's going to continue to be a good year. I think if you have a home, it's going to continue to appreciate. I think you're going to continue to build equity. I think it's going to hold strong. And if you are still renting and just throw money away and you're just waiting on the sideline, since COVID, there's been so many people just waiting on the sideline. I think if you're waiting to try to make money in something, maybe the stock market is the place to do that. But I think if you're going to pay for a home, you might as well pay for one you're building equity in, especially if you're going to stay in the same area you are for a long period of time. So what are you waiting for? Get off the fence. There's lots of real estate gurus who were predicting since COVID, there's going to be a crash. And I haven't seen the indicators. I haven't seen the future predictors of that. I have only seen the opposite. And personally, I've only thought and expected the opposite since we already had the crash. It lasted a long time. If you didn't take advantage of it, it's not too late. It's not too late to buy real estate, have assets. Maybe the place to take advantage of it will be in the commercial real estate world, but I don't see it happening in the residential. I see, there's always deals to be found. I absolutely believe in that. But I think the regular real estate industry is going to keep holding strong. It's going to be a place where consumers can put their confidence, have their confidence, hold their confidence in. So keep enjoying. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to my opinion. And I hope you have a great day.